Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jason Connell, and I'm from the marketing team at Mydoma Studio, and we are the premier platform for interior designers. We like to think that we like to help you take care of all the not so fun things that you have to do as part of owning and running an interior design business, and ultimately get you back to what you love to do. But today, I am also joined by Nicole Heymer. And she's amazing. We love her. She's been done a few things with us before, and it's been a while, so we knew that we need to bring her back. She is an absolutely amazing marketer and does amazing things for interior designers in this space. She's worked with a lot of Mydoma customers I know, and they all love her too. And I'm so excited for her to join us today to tell us all about efficient SEO for interior design firms. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you can be doing for your firm in terms of marketing and getting the word out, but really showing up in that Google search is just so beneficial and so key to kind of getting the word out there without having to break the bank, right? So I know this is going to be an absolutely amazing presentation. Before I hand over to Nicole, though, I just want to say if you do have any questions for Nicole at any point, be sure to drop them in that Q&A box. Sometimes the chat can move a little fast, so we can miss it. So really get into that, make sure they're in that Q&A box, and after she's done her presentation, we will address those. And yeah, Nicole, if you want to kind of take it from here, it's all yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You guys can tell me if this is successful. Jason, is this looking good?
You're good.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So as we said, this is efficient search engine optimization for interior design firms. So what we're going to be doing today is really looking at the most straightforward, just focus on your goals, get this done with the least amount of work possible. Is it no work? No, it is not, but it is return on your time investment or your financial investment. So first, let's talk about why. So Jason kind of touched on this, but there are a few reasons why. You have a lot of options when it comes to driving traffic to your website. You can do paid ads. You can focus on networking. You can only, lean on referrals. You can really go hard on social media. So if you can't do everything, which most firms can't do everything, and you're picking, let's say, two things, why should search engine optimization be one of them? And the first and most, I think, important reason is intent. I always say that the reason why search engine optimization is better for an interior designer than literally a Super Bowl ad or literally a billboard in Times Square is because of intent. Because in those circumstances, people are just driving by, walking by, watching television. Someone who is searching for interior designer, Dallas, Texas, has the intent to hire an interior designer, if not now, then soon. And that is a beautiful thing. That is really important. Not every search term is going to have that level of right now, bottom of the funnel intent, but you can really hit all sorts of levels of the funnel, all different points in the buyer's journey. It's really, really powerful. It is the gift that keeps on giving. So, I'm going to show you at some point in this presentation, an example of a blog post that I wrote in 2016. It is 6 years old. That's geriatric as far as blog posts go. That's crazy old. And it still consistently stays on the first page. It is on a topic that is really important for us and hits an audience, interior designers, that is really important to us. It took me probably 6 hours to put that together, but wow, the ROI on that. And you guys, we have clients that have exactly the same thing where a piece of content hits and it works for them for years. So this can be something that really lasts. Unlike, let's say, paid traffic, paid ads, where you turn off the tap and the traffic stops coming. There's a place for that. It is important when you're using it strategically, but these are the pros and cons, right? Authority and credibility. So even if you're getting all of your work through referrals, let's say that's the situation. You have a huge array of referrals. You've been in business for decades. Still, these people are going to check you out. They are going to Google your name. They are going to look at you on social media. So if you are not showing up, if you're not in the pool of businesses that are showing up on that first page when they're searching in a particular area, it's not great. It leaves them to look at your competitors, and that's not really what we want. As far as credibility goes, if you put together a piece of content related to your messaging, whatever your niche is, whatever you specialize in, if you're showing up, if you're driving a lot of traffic and you have a really good piece of content around that, it can really boost your credibility. I'll give you another example related to the blog post of ours that I was talking about. I was talking to a potential client, it was, last year, and she mentioned that she heard of us because her professor in design school assigns our blog posts as part of the curriculum. What? Most exciting thing anyone's ever told me. I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. I was thrilled, but really it's a blog post. It's just content that is created, and you can achieve the same thing where you just, it sets you apart as an authority because you're putting together good content. Content is really real and really important. So anyway, here's a less puffy version of me from last year. And so as Jason said, my name is Nicole Heymer, owner and creative director at Glory & Brand. We specifically, we serve interior design firms and related businesses. We've been doing this for 11 or 12 years, whatever amount of time it is, formerly known as Curio Electro. We do branding, and we design and build websites. And then we have a couple of other services that we offer ongoing, specifically for interior design firms, custom home builders, architects, etc. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to get real specific. And like I said, real targeted. We're going to go in 3 phases: the prep. So what do you need to do? What do you need to have in place? The stuff might already be in place, which will be great news, before you go to try and optimize for search, or not about will work. What's the action? You are going to decide what you want and go for it. And then the elevation. So once you create the content, what can you do once you create these things that are going to be optimized for search, these pages that are going to be the things that we want people to see in search results? What can you do to push them forward and try and make them move towards the first page? Because luckily, the good news is there are things that you can do. So what needs to be in place first? This is going to be stuff that, like I said, you might have these things already set up. So number one, great on mobile. In 2015, there was this thing called in my industry, mobile get-in, when Google was like, we are literally not going to show websites in search results on mobile unless they are optimized for mobile phones. Some of you literally might not have been around on the internet long enough to remember when sites were not responsive for mobile, when we first had phones and we first had websites. We had to kind of pinch in and zoom, right? So everybody over time optimized their websites for mobile, but it doesn't mean that it's a great experience yet. And so really it is important. Google really pays attention. Is a website good on mobile? And literally, I'm going to ask you to open up your website on a mobile phone and check, just check, would I think this is a good experience? That's the first step. Make sure that it's good. Number 2, no malware or security errors. So this is, again, just stating the obvious. If there is, I have a story for everything. I have another client who we were in the middle of building them a new website, but her old website was still up until we were going to launch it. And then one day we went to go look at it, and it had been replaced by a screen full of male enhancement pills, because someone had hacked it. These things happen. I have another client who we're about to build her a site because her current site, there's some sort of security issue and it just takes 25 seconds to load. Obviously, these things are going to prevent you from showing up in search results, of course. And then related to that, loads quickly. This is a huge factor when it comes to search. It's a little bit complicated, but I can give you 2 major things to focus on if your site is not loading quickly. One is your hosting. So if you are using WordPress. So if you're on like Squarespace or Wix or something like that, they host your site. They have Squarespace servers and Wix servers. So there's not really a lot of control on your end as far as like how fast those servers are, or if they're like overloading their servers and things are loading slowly. But if you have a WordPress site, then you have control because it's open source and you have a website that can be placed on any server. You decide where it's hosted. It's Bluehost, it's GoDaddy, it's so the one that we tend to use, which is called Flywheel. It matters. Again, quick anecdote. One time we moved a website as is, no changes, from GoDaddy to our hosting, and the page load time cut in half. No changes to the website. Where you host your website for page load time speed totally matters. It might feel like it's the same thing, and like, why pay, $15 a month for if you're maintaining it yourself versus, or $30 a month versus, $5 a month for something like a GoDaddy. But it's worth it to have a good host and have it on a good server. Or you can have someone like us who is hosting and maintaining your site and handling all the backups and the plugin updates and all of that. And then we have a content delivery network, which will speed it up even faster. So the point is, it's got to load quickly. All right. So once you have those basics out of the way, it's time to start spying. So before we start thinking about like, what are our dream search terms? Like, what are the things that we want to show up for? Let's find out where we stand right now. And there are tools to use. I'm going to give you one right now. So you want to find out, how are you being found? If you feel like it, how are your competitors being found? And then what happens when you Google your business name? So this is, you can go to Ubersuggest. There's a free version of that. We use a paid version, but there's a free version, app.neilpatel.com. Or you can just Google Ubersuggest. And then you're going to go to keyword overview, and you're going to enter in your domain name. Don't put the www in front of it, www in front of it, just put in your domain name.com, whatever it is. Under the free version, you'll get like the top 10 keywords that you're ranking for. The paid version has a lot more stuff, but for now, you don't even necessarily need it, right? So I just like to use like famous examples, because why not? So this is Christopher Peacock, and this is showing literally a screenshot of what it looks like with the free version, where you're just getting the most recent information. So here we're looking at, like, if you've ever wondered what kind of traffic does peacockhome.com get, they're getting just under, like in January 2022, they got, when I took the screenshot in February, they had gotten just under 3,000 hits the month before organically through Google search. They have a 40 domain authority out of 100. These are the search terms that they are ranking for. Their top 10, this 9, 10, whatever this is, search terms. And what this tells us is that they are showing up, all of their organic search traffic that is significant, like all their main hits are coming from branded traffic, is what it's called. So this is when people know the name of the business and they're entering that in. So this is kind of like, what we would draw from this is like, if they were looking to bring in traffic to their website from people who have not previously heard of Christopher Peacock, then they would want to start targeting keywords that are not Christopher Peacock, Peacock cabinetry, Peacock kitchen, etc. Do this for your own business. And it might be that you go and enter it in and there's no organic search traffic. That's possible. Nowhere to go but up. Don't be discouraged. That's an exciting opportunity. Or it might be that it's only people searching your business name, kind of like Christopher Peacock. You guys have that in common. Or it might be that you have like a blog post that's driving a bunch of traffic to your site and you never realized it. It can be really illuminating. What is particularly useful at this point is if you go to search this information and you find that you have a bunch of search terms. Let's say you've got 4 or 5 search terms where you're not ranking number 1 or number 3 here, like Christopher Peacock. You're ranking like number 79 or like number 48, right? You're on the 4th page, you're on the 7th page or 5th page or 8th page or however it works, right? So those are opportunities. You want to take note of those things because we're going to talk about this later, but you might be able to take existing stuff, existing pages that you have and just tweak them to try and improve your ranking and move up those ranks. So it's good to have this information up front. How are we doing now? Should we work with existing stuff? Like, what's the deal? And then, like I mentioned, I mean, I know like every time I ask any designer about like who their competitors are, which we do, we talk about that in our brand discovery process. Much of the time they're like, I don't think about my competitors. And I get it. Like, I really feel the same way, but it can be useful for this stuff and for a lot of other reasons too, for messaging, for color palette for your brand, for all that stuff, just to make sure that you're differentiating yourself. But here it's useful to get ideas. So it doesn't even have to be your competitors. It could be like a design firm that you admire that does have a good online presence and does rank well. Like, what are they ranking? Like, what search terms are they ranking for? Which pages of theirs are doing the heavy lifting as far as like being the things that people are being driven to from Google search? Like, this is really good information. You can get a lot of cool ideas. So these are their top pages. You can search by country. It's a lot of, if you like data, you're going to love this. And this just to show you like what happens when you Google Christopher Peacock. Well, this is what happens. And so, I mean, this is not to show you anything wild, but you want to know like what happens when you Google your business name. Is there anything weird? Basically, is there anything weird that you need to know about what's going on? Is there anything that you need to try and address? Do you need to, if you've got something strange going on, try and build out some new social media profiles to like push that content down, et cetera, et cetera. So just always want to know what's going on. All right. So once that's done, this is when we get into what I would say is like the fun part, which is dreaming big and deciding on your goals. So here's the question, because I want to really, really stress here from experience that it can feel out of control, search engine optimization. Like you can't just like turn a knob and you get what you want, right? But to a certain degree, you are in control. You get to decide what search terms you want to go after, and then you can go after them. And it's kind of like an amazing video game, and it's pretty fun because when you make progress, it's just really satisfying for all the reasons, right? So what are the dream search terms? Let's talk about categories of search terms that you could go after. And I am choosing the ones here that are most useful from a business perspective to an interior designer. So you'll notice here that like how to reupholster a dining room chair, for example, is not in this list, like super DIY stuff, unless you are focusing on a DIY target client. And that is entirely possible depending on your business model. If you're selling digital products or you're making money off of, display ads because you're like really into content creation, like there are times that is a thing. But for focusing here on service-focused interior designers, here are some ideas. Location plus the professional themselves. So Dallas interior designer, something like this is going to be probably your number one focus, the thing that you most want to rank for. But it doesn't have to just be where you are actually located. And we're going to talk about that. Like it might be that you are in a town and then the next town over has like a lot of really good target clients, and really you'd want to go and be found for like that city interior designer. Like that'd be better for you. Let's just keep that in mind while we're talking, and we're going to pull that out in a moment. But keeping in mind also that depending on where you live, people search differently, right? So like I live in New York now, but I'm from New Jersey. And in New Jersey, North New Jersey, where I'm from, Northern New Jersey, people would be more likely to search probably by county. So like Bergen County interior designer. Whereas if you live in Seattle, it might be like Seattle interior designer. Or if you're in a suburb that's like a pretty major suburb of Seattle, it would be like that suburb, right? So you have to look at how people search. And you don't even necessarily need to do keyword research yourself for this. You can think about like, I don't know, I always say like, just like, think about like if you live in the area that you serve, if you were searching for a dentist, like how would you search? Just like how do human beings search for things in your area? So that's one. Then we have location plus parallel service. So this is a technique that we have found to be just incredibly useful for a lot of reasons. We'll get into it in a moment, but something like Philadelphia mainline architects. And I do mean for an interior designer. So like, if you're like, yeah, I work with a lot of, I do full service design and I like to work with clients who are doing whole home or major remodels and renovations, or like, I really like new construction or, like whatever. Think about the parallel services that are involved and how lovely it would be to show up in search for those services. So through an article or something like that. So again, we'll talk about it in a moment, but something like Philadelphia Mainline Architects would be good for an interior design, like for that target client who's searching for that, for them to end up on your page, not the worst thing, right? On your website. Next, location plus service. So drilling down a bit, Boulder, Colorado, color consultation. What's a specific service that you offer other than interior design? Is there something that people actually search for? Again, qualifying this, keeping in mind, you have to remember what people actually search for. Like people, unfortunately for the world, are not searching for like Boulder, Colorado space planning, even though they should, because that would be a good idea for everyone. But we got to go by like what people are actually, their perceived need, right? Their perceived need is that they need an interior designer. Sometimes their perceived need is that they need a color consultation. Like, what are the things that people actually ask for? Design detail. So something that like your target client would search for that would sort of like help to hone in on like the type of target client you're looking for. So someone might be searching for like double kitchen island design, right? What does that tell us? It tells us that they have a kitchen that has a lot of square footage, something like that might be good for a design firm. Could use descriptor plus service. So sustainable interior design NYC. So we're adding a location on there, like, is there a niche that you're serving that you can look for a way to show up in search for that niche? And then finally, and I'm going to say this is important, but is lower on the list of like sort of like hierarchy as far as like what we should hit first, but questions and research. So 14% of Google searches are in the form of a question, as I note here in my little bubble. Excuse me. And also when something is in the form of a question, there's a possibility that it could, it becomes kind of like an FAQ. Again, we're going to touch on that in a second, but eventually that could be yielding an answer for like a voice search as things move forward and voice search just becomes more and more dominant. So how much does new construction cost? Something like that, where it's like, this is the person who is searching for this is going to be like a good target client. So what needs to happen on the website? The first thing we need to do is, and I literally would like for you to do this right now, write down 2 dream search terms. So like based on these ideas, based on these sort of general categories, what are 2 things that you would really like to show up for? Write them down. Because in the end, like there's like your Google business, there's all this sort of like hope and prayer, like there's like good ways, like where are you on the map and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, when we are searching for something using Google or whatever search engine, are there others that people use? Yahoo, whatever they are. When we are Bing, when we're searching for something, the answers to our queries come in the form of pages. You're clicking to a page. So fact, the best way to optimize your website for search engines is to have an answer in a big way, like a really like go to town on it answer, to have a page dedicated to that search term. But you have options. Please hold while we're going to talk about that. Okay, so pick 2 dream search terms. Please proceed. Okay, next, Google them. What kind of content do you see? It sounds silly, but in the end of, long story short, you want your content to be better. So if we are creating a blog post that is more educational and like literally, and you see like 10 ceiling design ideas, that's something that we did for someone once. And, if the posts that you're seeing there are like 10 gorgeous ceiling design ideas, like sounds dumb, but you want to do 20. Like you want to have better content. Think about like what you click on as a consumer, what you're like, I will click on the one that has more, I will click on the one that is better. I will click on the one that is better. And then when I land on the page, if it is good, I will stay. And if it is not good, I will leave. Right. So we're looking at the existing content, the existing answers. And this goes for like home pages and everything. And just, you know, like we want to be like the best, right? Like in the end. So the next step is to create the content. One page, not multiple pages, one page for each dream term. That content, I'm delighted to report, can come in a myriad of forms. So it does not have to be a blog post, right? I know we've all heard, and it is true, that blogs can be really useful for search engine optimization. It does not. It can be any, Google doesn't care what kind of page we're talking about. It just needs to be a page. So here are some options for you, depending on the type of content we're talking about. It can be a home page. So here is an example. This is Michelle York, a lovely client of ours. She's in Bellevue, Washington. The goal was for her to show up for Bellevue, Washington interior designer. Mission accomplished. She does, and she does that with her homepage. So we optimized her homepage for that. There we are. Location pages. So location pages are, you can think of them as like mini home pages in that they are not to be used. You're not linking to them openly from like your top navigation or anything like that. The best example I can give you, or the thing to think about is, the thing I said before about how like sometimes like you're located in one place, but you would love to have more clients in this place and this place and this place over here, right? But like, how do you magically do that? Like Google knows where you're located because your Google business page has your address on it, hopefully, right? And your website has your address on it. And so your name, address, and phone number, it's easiest to show up in the actual place where you're located. But if you want to have people find you who are searching for interior designer in wherever, you need to give them a page that is dedicated to that. That is the easiest and most logical way to make that happen, because you need to have something for them to click to, something to show up in the search results and something for them to click to. And then you need that thing to be like the answer to their question. So the question is, you know, can I have an interior designer in San Juan, Puerto Rico? Yes, you may. Here is one. Her name is Juliet Kaloff. And so this is a location page for her. So it's got her major messaging on it. It's got calls to action. It's got her phone number. It's got a testimonial. It's got pictures of recent projects. And what happens is that shows up, that page shows up when you search for, you know, San Juan interior designer. And instead of taking people to her homepage, which is a more general sort of page, it takes them to this particular page that's focused on San Juan interior designer and has all the calls to action that we need. You can create as many location pages as you want. You want to, again, be strategic about like only creating them for places that people would actually search for. You know, if you get too specific, people don't really search by neighborhood, for example, typically. But it's just important that you have what you're not going to do is have the same copy or the same content on all of your location pages. Most definitely not. It's going to vary. You don't want to have duplicate content. And then you're going to secretly, subtly link to the location pages from, let's say, your homepage. So you might have like areas served and like have the areas written out, but those, you know, San Juan, this, that, it has to have a link that's not like a link that's like, click me, but a link that's just subtle, that links over to that page. That just tells Google, it just gives it like a place to jump. It tells Google this page is important enough that like we link to it from the homepage. It's more for Google than for the humans, but that is a way to target a search term to go for a location page. Another option is a service page. So this is WindowWorks in New Jersey. They've been around for many decades, a wonderful, amazing business. This is co-owned by Luan Nigara. And this is one of the things that they sell. It's a really high-end awning, Genius Awnings. That is how it is spelled. It has two N's. So this is the kind of product that, I mean, it's just great to rank for this because this is like the kind of thing that you want to sell, right? So this is a page that we created for them that now it's actually ranking. Ideally, we want it to rank for, you know, Genius Awnings, New Jersey or whatever, but it's actually ranking nationally. And it's got all the calls to action and it's got video. We'll talk about that. And it's got a link, interlinking to other pages. And, you know, there's a lead magnet on here and all of that stuff. But if people come in straight through, if they're looking for Genius Awnings, there is no way to optimize their homepage, WindowWorks, for like Genius awnings and custom window treatment, all the things that they do, it's not possible to optimize one page for that. You need to have a dedicated page for the product so that people can come. It shows up in search when they're looking for that thing, they click on it, and then they take action. And there it is. It shows up on that page in the organic search over there. It shows they have video that shows up from YouTube. They have images in the Google image search that also show, like, they're just like dominating that page, which is ideal. Like, the more types of content you have showing up, the better. And then another option would be product pages. So this is Manuela Morera Interiors out of New York City and Connecticut. And she, these are currently out of stock, but this is a product that she has on her website that it's just like a branded, beautiful candle. And these started showing up, not on the first page, but started showing up in search results kind of by accident. It wasn't even really an intention. So I started playing around with like, well, maybe we can make a couple of adjustments, and we saw them rising in the rankings. It's just, it's just another thing that can show up in search results if you have a product, like a shopping cart product. So think about that. When you are drafting products, if you have products on your website where people can check out, that is something that can rank. And I'm going to say, just by experience, just anecdotal evidence, that they tend to rank, like Google likes a product page, we've had them rank even before we wanted them to. That's rare. That's not what we're worried about. But we've had that happen with some clients. So there it is. That is not on the first page, though. Confess. Okay, so blog posts. This is an example of the thing that I was talking about before, the parallel businesses. So this is Fuller Interiors. They are out of the Philadelphia main line, another lovely client. And this was a blog post, Philadelphia mainline architects are 5 favorites. Blog posts can be a fantastic tool for search engine optimization just because it's a blank slate. I always say blogs are a stage. You can put on any show you like, because you really can do whatever you want on a blog post with your content, before and afters and this and that, whatever. Like, you can go to town. You can do 2,000 words if you have it in you, as long as you make it skimmable. Lots of images, video, like whatever you've got to throw at it in a nice, well-planned way to really go for a search term that you want. In this case, this strategy of using of parallel business keywords is very good in that, like, this is an easy post to put together. It's just like our 5 favorites, and like literally just what are their 5 favorite architects in the area. And it's like grabbing some information from their website. They're happy, you're linking to their website. Like, you can ask someone 5 questions, you can interview them like a parallel business and architect that it's great because you're not writing the content from scratch. You're featuring them. It's a win for them. They'll share it on social media potentially. Like, it's like the win-win-win of everything. But that's just one way to do a blog post. And there it is, Philadelphia mainline architects. And that is, today, took that screenshot. That is showing up in a snippet, in a featured snippet. So this is information, you guys have seen this when you are looking at search results. Sometimes you'll see information kind of pulled out, so it's displayed directly on the page so that the user doesn't necessarily have to go over to the website. Now, is this, it is a good thing. Like, it's a really nice big feature. And then it's entirely possible that the user is going to click over, because this is like, look at that. Like, which one are you going to click on? You're going to click on that one, right? The reason that Google knows to pull that out there is because this blog post is optimized properly. So like, these are headings, they're just like pulled out and featured. So Google knows that they can pull these out and make them into bullet points. All right, so you've got 2 search terms that you've decided are your dream search terms at this point, hopefully. You know that you need to create 1 page for each search term in whatever form feels like it makes the most sense. Now you are going to create that content, just 2 right now. It's not about volume. It's about being, really, if you could rank on the first page for those 2 search terms that you're thinking of, how good would that be, right? So like, a little bit of like strong effort towards those 2 is 100% worth it. So Now you're going to draft the content and then optimize the page, but keep it classy. And what I mean by that is don't get spammy, don't like over index on like the keywords and like dropping them in too many places and making it weird to read, right? Like this is for humans. If humans like it, Google likes it. Think about the people. So I am not going to like go through this in detail. I'm going to give you access if you want to a blog optimization guide. But the main gist of it is you want your keywords just sprinkled around. So this is kitchen remodeling in Saddle River, like that's New Jersey, right? So like that's like the sort of the example here. You want it in the page title. You want these words in the headings. So the headings are those sort of like where it says 6 there, that's an H2 heading, a larger heading. You want it in the text, like in the actual copy. You want it in the file names. Before you upload an image, you want to rename the actual file and then upload it and then add it to the alt tags, which is the bottom one right here. So the alt tags are they describe the image. Humans can't see alt tags, but when you have an alt tag sort of like loaded in when you're uploading an image, you can do this in any, it doesn't matter if you're using Wix, WordPress, whatever. Like I'm showing you WordPress here. It doesn't matter. All of this functionality that you're seeing is totally available on any website builder, so not to worry. But alt tags are very important to describe images because Google can't see what an image, like robots can't see, bots can't see, Google bots can't see. So you need to describe what's in the image and you can put your keywords in there. Alt tags are also used for screen readers. So it's about ADA compliance. So we want to make sure that if someone is using a screen reader, if they're blind, they have a description of the image. Alt tags are also good for if the image is broken for some reason, that description shows up. And really like one of those examples that I showed there before, like you could see that the Google images were showing the client's images of awnings because we described those, you know, we put alt tags and file names that were renamed to say like Genius Awning, New Jersey or whatever, you know? And then we've got a meta title right here. So this is, again, you can use this anywhere. And so this is what will ideally show up. You can't really control it, but you can suggest to Google what you want the meta title to be. You want to include those keywords, the actual URL. So this is, you know, / kitchen dash remodeling dash saddle dash river. So like keywords in the URL and of course the meta description. So this is where we just, the copy that goes in the search result. The number of keywords in there actually technically has no impact with Google, but that copy is what's going to help people to want to click on your search result instead of the one below you or the one above you. So that's really important. The more people click through to yours, the more Google is going to keep moving you up as long as people go to the content and like it and stay there and not just bounce back. So for the blog optimization guide that like outlines, it's 11 steps, but some of them are fast. You can just text Mydoma to 773-770-4377. And I will give that to you again at the end. So we can just send that over to you now. And the next question, which is, how are we doing on time? We're okay. Okay. So the next question is the third phase of this. So we know what search terms we want to use. We picked 2. We decided what kind of page we're going to put them on. We have drafted the content and created it. We have optimized it. We've sprinkled our keywords all around. Like these are the things that we want to show up for. What is going to give us a better chance of this actually showing up? Because there's a lot of competition out there depending on the search term that we're talking about. So like, just to say, you know, like it really, it depends on a number of factors. We'll get into that a little bit more in a moment, but there are things you can do to help your case. So number 1, increase your dwell time. So I mentioned before a few times about how Google, you know, I said, as long as Google sees that like people are staying on the page and they like the content because they're not just like bouncing back, right? You want to increase the dwell time, the amount of time that people are spending on the page, because that says to Google, hey, Google, this piece of content, people like it. They feel it is an actual answer to the question that they're asking, that they're plugging into the search, into Google. So into the search engine. So, you know, like keep showing this one, move it up. This is a good one. They're happy. They're going to keep coming back to Google. So number 1, make your content super skimmable. you know, when it comes to really competitive search terms, like the crazy ones where it's like, something that's like a national search term where there are people, 8,000 people a month are searching this, or, those larger volume search terms, it's like really competitive. And we know from the data that for those, and this is not so much for the, unless you live in like a huge city, it's not so much the interior designer, your area ones, it's going to be like topics. But for those, it's going to usually be a piece of content that has over 2,000 words that's going to show up on the first page. I know. But the fact of the matter is that you can totally do that in a way that is not gross and really skimmable and like a pleasant experience for people, as long as you have headings, you break up your paragraphs, you have images scattered throughout. Like, you can make that a great experience. Even a longer blog post. People will skim. It's the internet. Everyone skims. So always want to make sure that you have skimmable content. If someone is confronted with a block of words when they reach a page, I mean, we can all relate to this. You are going to turn right around. It is literally tiring. So skimmable, break up your paragraphs, all that. This is in the blog optimization guide, actually, about doing that. And then the other thing is video, because logically, if we think about someone sitting on your blog or on a page or on a location page or on a project page or whatever, watching a video, they are spending time on the page. And that is a good thing. However long the video is, if they're staying for the video, they're staying that long. So this is the post that I mentioned before, our example of this 2016 post. This is about branding, and this is a long blog post. This is over 2,000 words, but I just screenshot like 2 elements from it, 2 little sections. It is very skimmable. You read what you want, girl, boy, whoever you are, you read what you want, you skim through it. And that is what makes it okay. And that is what makes it like doable. And that continues to be on the first page for branding for interior designers. We should probably update it. Again, we'll talk about that as well. Video. So I just really like this example. This is Manuela. Again, this is a good example because project pages don't tend to rank in search results as much as other pages because they don't usually have a lot of words on them. They can, but like, it's not always like the best for the branding or the user experience to have like big blocks of words on a project page, right? So we sort of lean on other pages on the website to show up in search. But this one, to our great surprise, started showing up in search. We were actually optimizing a location page for her, but this one was showing up. And so we ran with it because of, drumroll, the embedded video. I mean, that's the reason. Like, if we look at what's going on here for New Canaan, Connecticut interior designer, this is the first page. All the examples I'm showing you, except for that one, are the first page. She's showing up twice. What do those 2 have in common? Those 2 pages, they both have embedded videos. Not all of her project pages have embedded videos. Her work is gorgeous. The videos are gorgeous, but those 2 do, and they are showing up for this local area. Ta-da! Amazing. The other thing that you want to do to like make your case and increase your chances would be to reduce your bounce rate. So a bounce rate is the percentage of people who are hitting. So let's say they search for something, they click on your search result, they get to the page, and then they bounce right back. They leave. They do not go to a second page. They only go to that page and they leave. That's bounce. So, we're always looking to improve our bounce rate, to reduce our bounce rate. So a couple of things you can do. Number 1, make sure that the mobile experience is good, as we mentioned before. And number 2, and this is, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. No, nope. False alarm. Okay. We want to link to and from other pages. So I just was looking at I forget whose website it was, but we were looking at their Google Analytics, and the bounce rate for the blog posts was like just abysmal, just like not great, right? But what they didn't have was a sidebar. And I know it can feel like sexy to not have a sidebar because it's so like clean and like lots of white space, right? It's just like content and like nothing. But a sidebar is great for giving them something to click on, right? So like you land on a blog post, you're like, this is good, I'm enjoying this. And then you see some popular posts on the side, you see some featured stuff, you see the about page, you see like a lead magnet, like whatever. It gives you, it's basically an advertisement for you. It's like commercials for you. So, you know, to take them to the next spot, to move them forward, to move them down the funnel and get them to click on the next thing. So have a sidebar, have a side. It's not as clean, but have a sidebar on your blog and make sure that it's got, you know, links on it so people can go other places. Also within your content, whatever your content is. So whether we're talking about a location page that has a nice, sweet, clear call to action for them to contact you, or a nice, sweet, clear call to action to go view your projects. Or maybe it's a blog post where you're linking to other blog posts, whatever it is, always be interlinking. It's a major search engine optimization thing. So this is Carpet Time. They are out of New York City. They're in Queens. When they came to us, they had no website. They'd been in business for 35 years, and they are now, glory be, ranking nicely for Carpets NYC. And, you know, one of the elements is that it's a good mobile experience. It's that we're interlinking a lot on all of their pages, so you can just move around. And of course, they have just a great reputation as a business, and they've existed offline for all of these years. We were starting from scratch, but we weren't really, you know. All right, and here's a fun one. I think this is so fun. So add schema markup. And I know that sounds like techie and scary, but it's not, because, well, it's not if you have a WordPress site. So if you use the Yoast SEO plugin, which I would highly recommend that you do, if you have a WordPress site, that's going to allow you, I should have mentioned, that's going to allow you to add all that meta information that we looked at in the example. One of the elements that Yoast, the free version of the plugin, includes is FAQs. So if you use WordPress, and this could be, listen, by the way, it's not only you doing this stuff, this could pass all of this along to your team, right? Give them the blog optimization guide. Do not, as the owner of the business, do this stuff yourself necessarily. Please, this is to be, this is to be given to the proper people to handle. So, but you're the idea person, right? Maybe you're coming up with a strategy. Anyway, the FAQs. So in the sort of like blocks that WordPress has, where you're creating a blog post or you're creating a page, you know how you can click the little plus sign and add like image or like, you know, I don't know, body copy or however, whatever the wording is on that, you can add, there's an option, you can just search it, FAQ. That has schema market. So it's Yoast FAQ. It has schema markup baked into it. So you don't have to get technical with like snippets of code, right? If you are using Squarespace or Wix or something like that, you're going to want to bring this to your developer and say, I would like FAQ schema markup on this content, on these FAQs. That's the wording that you're going to use when you ask them to do it. But if you have WordPress, just use the plugin, put your FAQs there. There'll be a place for the question. There'll be a place for the answer. It's like not techie at all. And that is going to wrap the schema markup around it. What does schema markup do? There are a lot of different types of schema markup, but it's basically code that tells Google what type of information this is. So WindowWorks, again, here we were doing a piece of content about louvered roofs in New Jersey. This was we had to really wrestle with this one. It has an embedded video and all of that, but then we also added FAQs with schema markup using the Yoast SEO plugin. So nothing crazy over here on the side. And so this is just like when you scroll back down that post or that page. So what that yields here is Google understands that these are FAQs. Google understands that these are not just like questions. These are not just sentences. Google gets it, right? You're telling Google, these are FAQs. And so if you look here where it's ranking on very nicely on the first page, louvered roofs in New Jersey, there are two FAQs down below that. What is a louvered roof made from and how much does a louvered roof cost? Can we tell Google which questions to pull from there and how to display it? No, we don't get to tell Google anything, but we did make the gentle suggestion with the structured data. That is beautiful. That's how you end up with like featured snippets. Like this is like a very powerful tool, and that's an easy one to start with. Pick the low-hanging fruit. So you are going to, I should have said this first, honestly, verify and optimize your Google business page. One for each location if you have multiple locations. This is the most easy, important thing that you can do, your Google business profile. Do everything on that profile that you can. Add images, add your logo, add services where you can add services. You have the option, add events, add links to content, like anything they ask you to do it, and make sure that you are displaying your address, because that is really important for search engine optimization, for your name, address, phone number to be consistent. Speaking of which, this is a major element of search engine optimization that will help your cause. So you want to make sure that your name, address, and phone number are consistent all over the internet. There are services that you can use to make this happen. Moz Local is one of them, or you can sort of manually do it yourself. You can go to Moz Local. It'll tell you if you have inconsistencies around your name, address, and phone number. If you have moved your business address, if you have changed the name of your business, then like we're dealing with our name, address, and phone number because of our rebrand still, getting the inconsistencies across the internet, getting those fixed. It's just a major SEO thing. Name, address, phone number, NAP. Totally consistent across the internet as much as possible. Start with your Facebook account, the actual address, name, and phone number that are shown on your website, and your Google your Google profile that I was just talking about. Just make sure they're consistent in those places to start. And finally, I think this is the last one. Google likes brands. So mentions and links from other websites are going to always help you. They're called backlinks. Print ads, community involvement, press. Anytime that people are searching for your name of your business, Google thinks of you as sees that as a, this is a brand. People know who this is, not spam. This is a brand. So when you hire a PR firm and they are getting you links from eldecor.com, beautiful. That is so helpful from a search engine optimization perspective, because it really gives you authority. Like anytime we work with someone who's working with a PR firm, I'm so happy from an SEO perspective, because that is great stuff. Anytime that you have a print ad and people are directly plugging in the name of your business or your URL, they're driving traffic. All of this is a soup. It all comes together to raise your domain authority. Direct quote from Eric Schmidt of Google: brands are the solution, not the problem. Brands are how you sort out the cesspool. Gross, but let's take him at his word. Oh my gosh, I'm running. Okay, quickly. But isn't there some techie things somebody could do on the back end? No, there's not. There's no like flip a switch. There's no like back end. All the stuff that I showed you, like it comes down to good content. There is no like dump some keywords into a form field somewhere and they'll magically show up. There is no direct shortcut. It used to, honestly, there used to be in like 2012, you could do weird stuff like put white text on white background with like a bunch of keywords in it. Like people did crazy stuff. You cannot do that stuff anymore. You will be punished. Google will punish you. What if I just list the locations I work in on the bottom of my homepage and call it a day? I saw this advice recently from someone else. No, that's not, just putting like the word Los Angeles on the bottom of your homepage is not going to be enough. We have to give them the answer to the question. We have to give them something to link to. And especially if we're talking about competitive areas, like yes, a mention of areas served, like there's some significance to that. But if we're talking about competitive search terms, like you need to give them a full answer to the question. You need to give them actual content, an actual page for them to be like, okay, I've landed on the page that answers my question. I created an amazing page, a groundbreaking article, Why is Nothing Happening? Well, this goes back to, all the things that we talked about helping your case. This is a soup with many ingredients. So even with the greatest piece of content in the world, if you don't have like good domain authority, if you have a brand new domain name that like you just bought last week and has no history, right? It's going to be more challenging for you to get content to rank because Google doesn't know you or trust you yet. You don't have authority. Once you start having like links from bigger websites, if you have press or, like you've been around for a while, or you're that link from the local chamber of commerce, you've put some articles out there and people are spending time on the page, we have consistent name, address, and phone number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then it's going to be easier to rank for content that you create. But let me just tell you, do not let it discourage you, because if you don't create the content that is going to fulfill, that is going to go for your dream search terms, it's never going to happen. Right? So like do it and then work to like watch it rise. What if I don't have the time or the team or the money? then you won't be able to do this. It's going to be time, or you're going to have to put some effort into it. It does not happen magically. You might end up showing up on map results for your area over time if you have a not too competitive region where there aren't tons of interior design firms. But without purposeful work to like, really go for it, you're not going to see results quickly or even slowly in many cases. You really have to decide, like, I would like to do search engine optimization. That is a thing I would like to do. I'm going to invest resources into it, whether those resources are time or money, people on the team, yourself, someone that you're hiring, whatever it might be. Can I take this older page and just make it better? Heck yeah, you can. Yes, you can do it. Yes. If you have, like I have old blog posts that like we should totally be updating, like just like for the record, we should totally be doing that. It would be a good idea. You might have a blog post that is showing up on, or a service page or a location page or something that's showing up in the 70s for ranking. No one's getting there. No one's seeing it, but that's good that it cracked the 100. That's a good sign. That's like proof of concept. So go ahead and like expand on it, improve on it, link to it, link from it, add video, like do all the things that are going to help you. To get results, you have to be purposeful. This is, something where you really can, I promise you can take those 2 dream search terms and just go at it and work on it. And then just like make changes and adjust and watch as the results start to happen. Like I said, it's very satisfying, but you have to have a plan. Good content wins, and you cannot fool Google. So don't even try. It's about creating content, creating answers, pages that are honestly and truly going to help people, because those are the ones that are going to rise in the rankings. Whew, okay, questions. I'll just wrap that up by saying you can find me at glorianbrand.com if you need me for anything. And for the blog optimization guide, I'm just going to leave that up there just for a moment. So if you want that, you can text to that number. Hi, Jason.
Hi, woo. I'm sure people's heads are exploding. That was a lot of info to pack into like 45 minutes, an hour. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that, Nicole. We do have a few questions. Now this one did get some suggestions in chat, which I love to see, but this is a question that has shown up like 5 times in the Q&A box.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So a lot of people who, have concerns, they work from home or where they work as a personal address, and they have concerns about putting that out into the ether and sometimes scary place of the internet. Do you have any sort of advice on what to do for that? Some people have mentioned they have a PO box, but I'm just wondering if you have any other ideas.
I have good news and bad news there. So here's the reality of this. Because a lot of interior designers have home offices. It's really common. So this is a question that I get a lot. The fact is, you are better off from a search engine optimization perspective having an address. A PO box does not work. It does not accomplish the same thing. A shared space like a WeWork, something like that, does not accomplish the same thing. So typically when we work with clients, we have the conversation, and it really just comes down to, what do you want to do? Because many of our clients just put their home address. They just do. And I, knock on everything, have never had a client who had an issue with it. It is what some people say to me is like, you know what, people can find my address in 3 seconds if they want to anyway. And I haven't had any clients who've had someone just like show up. But it's really a matter of like, do you want to prioritize this? And are you willing to do that? Because you won't get the same results. Google literally doesn't count a PO box as a location.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. No, you know what? Real talk is, we need real talk sometimes, right? Yep. So thank you. Okay. Brittany wants to know Brittany Ray rather, sorry, I apologize. When people do Google searches, but they're spelled wrong, how does that work for SEO?
Google is super smart, and you'll notice this yourself as like a consumer who's, it just happened earlier today. I was Googling something when I was like updating these slides, and Google just is like, yeah, we get it. Like chances are, Google is going to understand. I mean, I don't know about butchering it completely, but if you're talking about like maybe your name, is that what we're thinking? Like your name, then it's I should qualify and say, like, if you have enough authority that Google like gets it, like it's going to be common misspellings that Google can understand and make the jump. If we're talking about your domain name, I always recommend buying the misspellings of your domain name, always, and redirecting them. So like when we were Curio Electro, you bet your something, we owned curioelectric.com and we had that redirected. So like definitely do that, and that will help.
Perfect. Lisa's wondering, lots of people search for, and I quote, interior design near me. How do we crack the Google code for that?
Yeah, so that's going to be your map results. That's going to be your map results. And so that you're going to go to your Google profile. So the Google business profile that we talked about. This is why it's like the most low hanging fruit, like the most important thing you can do. Make sure you have an updated Google profile. Oh, I forgot to mention, send people there to review you for the love of everything. That's going to really help to boost your Google search profile, and people are going to click on it more likely if you're showing in the map pack. But that's really more based on the map pack because it's based on location. Near me is based on location, and that's how Google knows your location. One more reason why you need to have an address. It is not going to serve you as well. I know that just circling back to that question because it relates. You can do this sort of like area served thing, right? Like some of you might have that set up where you're like, I service like this area and it shows and it doesn't show an address. It's just not going to serve you as well if you do that. You need the location. Another reason you need the location for the near me.
Yeah. Christina wants to know, what can we do about spammy XYZ domains? Is there something we can do to stop that, or do we need to even worry?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So I think what they're talking about is spammy.xyz domain. So I think the concern is their domain URL, but .xyz, and it being like a spammy site, kind of like what you were talking before, where it was about, mail enhancement. So,
yes. Such a lovely way to put it. So you're talking about you own the .com and someone owning like whatever, something else?
XYZ. I think so. Yeah. I believe that's what, and if we're wrong, Christina, feel free to re-put the question in the box, but I believe that's what they're trying to say.
So, so specifically XYZ or just any alternate domain ending?
That is a good question. Let us know, Christina. But maybe let's just assume it's
because if it's specifically XYZ, then this is like something I need to look into. It's like it's not something I'm aware of. Sure. But in general, this is why we always lean on owning the .com, because if you own the .com, this is when people are like, all right, I bought the .com and I also got the .org and the .biz and the don't even worry about all that. It's really the .com that's what people just like gut put in, that's why it's important to own that one, like whenever possible, like really whenever possible. And then as far as being in search results, like you are going to have typically more authority than a spam site. Like this is the thing, Google doesn't like spam. Google likes brands, like the cesspool that we referred to before. So it's like really unlikely that someone is going to show up higher than you in search results with some spam site. Like it just wouldn't happen. So just focus on the .com, and I wouldn't worry unless something has actually happened to you, in which case I would be interested to know. But for the most part, you're good. The real danger would be someone running ads against your, like that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about organic search engine optimization, but that's something that people really can do. They can run ads against, your website, like in Google pay-per-click.
Okay. Candace wants to know, is it a good idea to turn my email newsletter into a blog post on my website for SEO?
Sure. Yeah. If it is SEO worthy. So like not every topic is, right? So I'm just going to I'm going to stop share here. Be like normal.
Sure thing.
Normal. I'm like, it's like I got sweaty from all that talking. Some topics are more brand worthy. They're more demonstration of expertise. They're more like something that you would send something you want someone to see when they get to your website. And they're not really something that people are searching. And those things are like valuable. Like, I mean, even they're great for your email list to nurture them, those topics. So you just want to see, like, is this something that people are searching for? If that's what you're expecting out of it, it's not that you shouldn't turn it into a blog post, but if you want it to rank for something, like, does it make sense that this is something that people would search for if that feels clear?
All right. Okay, we're a little over time, so I think I'll leave this last one from Danielle. but they say, how long should we wait to check if the changes helped with ranking?
Like check a lot because it's fun to check. But if that's your idea of a good time, like it is for me. But give yourself 6 weeks before you even like really, I mean, it's so hard to say. Like we've had clients where like they have a really, really strong domain authority. They've been around for decades. They've had an online presence for decades. And like we would create content, and we literally had location pages for one client that started ranking before we even wanted them to. Like they just like, this is showing up in search. Terrible, great problem to have. So it really depends on your domain authority, but I'm going to say 6 weeks just to be like realistic. And even then you just don't know, like it could be 6 months later. They're like, oh my God, it cracks, right, Jason? You know what I'm talking about?
No, 100%. And we've seen it with stuff we've put out where it completely flopped when we launched it. And then, like you say, 6 months down the line, suddenly it's a hot commodity and everyone wants it. Sometimes, like you said, it's just a matter of timing, right? And trying things
and trying and would you agree, Jason, like it's worth the try, because it's not nothing 100%. And a non-existent thing is not going to rank. So like do it. And realistically, if you're like, all right, we're going to put out one new piece of content, whatever the strategy is, like we're doing a location page or we're doing whatever, not everyone is going to crack. Like it's going to crack the top 100 or make it to the first page. If every, like if you go hard on these two, like you can probably like, you can make progress, and hopefully you can get them to rank. But if you're doing like a regular blog post, like every month, let's say, not all of them are going to end up ranking, but the ones that do can serve you for years.
Yeah.
It's so worth
100%.
it. Yeah,
definitely. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. But Nicole, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I think you definitely gave us all, even me, a lot to think about.
Oh, good.
And this is the thing about this stuff is even when you think you have it, they change the algorithm or something changes, right? Like it's a continual process.
It sure
is. Stick with it and don't get frustrated and keep working at it. I think is the name of the game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's been amazing to have you back again. And thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you everyone for coming.
All right. Well, everyone have a great day. We'll see you soon for the next one. Take care.